everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to go. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of. The life inside this man, I've been born again.
Yes, Dave, we are born again.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Wow, it feels kind of weird, just you and me.
It's been a month.
Yeah.
Since it was just the two of us did a show, because we had Chris Medlock in,
right?
And then we had the legislator, Paul Hassing.
And then Christy.
And before that, we had
I thought
Dana Prieto and Christy Gillespie.
Right.
In fact, last week you were out, so I had David Oldham come in.
That's right.
And we tried to get Christy Gillespie's opponent, Cheryl Gortney, she, for whatever reason.
Yeah, which is too bad because, we want to say we try not to, we're not picking candidates here, and we want to offer everyone the opportunity to present their position.
Sure.
When
you got two good candidates, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So for some reason, Miss Courtney didn't want to come in, so we gave her the opportunity.
Sure.
We just want to say that we did not want to have her come in. We didn't want to have Paul Hassink's opponent not come in. I mean, we want to always, anytime someone's running and they want to come on our program here,
thank you,
they're welcome to come in. So that is, we want to be fair and open.
Yeah.
But in fact, I would invite another opponent from District 7 to come in.
Yeah.
I will stay gone that week and let you.
The opera lady. You know what?
Lori Dector Wright is who I'm speaking of.
Yeah. Now, for full disclosure and equal time, you are also a candidate.
Right, I am.
This is your first time announcing it on this show.
Right. Yeah, I have not announced it, and I won't campaign. I don't want to campaign because I don't necessarily feel it's appropriate.
Yeah.
To use this venue to do that. People have listened to me long enough. They know who I am. The people who listen to the show know what I'm about and who I am. So I don't have to, and I don't want to campaign on this show.
Well, what you are doing, though, is demonstrating the wisdom and insights that are Eddie Huff.
Well,
and that's going to come out no matter what the issue, because we don't know what the big issues are going to be next year or 5 years.
Exactly. Particularly, locally. And I do those through mailings and upcoming speeches and appearances and door to door and all of that. I'm happy. Anyone that wants to know, I will be happy to do that. But I don't feel this is the venue to do that. But I would be happy if she wants to come in. Mm-hmm. Lori Dector Wright, you're welcome to come in. Dave will ask you the questions, and then I will come in, and you're welcome to interview me. So,
sure. All right.
As I said, we want to be fair for anyone. In fact, we need to bring the mayoral candidates in for those who would be willing to come in and give them an opportunity. And go for it there. So, and then the other city council races.
You know what I'm really hoping is that nobody wins it outright.
The mayoral.
Yeah, and that we go into the November election, which is a runoff on the city. The top two. That'll give us some more time to really kind of weed out the minor candidates and focus on the two most prominent.
I do hate that in so many of these elections, you always have someone jump in there or a few people jump in that really, they don't have any business being there, don't stand a chance, and they siphon off votes from people who really do have a chance. Yeah. And it ends up hurting and only helping
It does.
One of the candidates.
Can I commend someone, though? A particular person who ran thinking, I don't know of anybody else, and we need a conservative. Right. And it's Margie Alfonso.
Right. That's true. That's true. Because, and full disclosure, it's in my particular District 7 race. But at the time, she had no idea that I would be throwing my hat in the ring at the time.
Yeah. and she came to a meeting here just a couple nights ago. Actually, I saw on Facebook where she just flat out made an endorsement, say, "Hey, those of you supported me, here's Eddie." So that was,
she has pulled out of the race, and
Yeah.
she has endorsed me.
Yeah. Now, Brian Crane did the same thing about 6-8 years ago for district attorney. He couldn't get his name off the ballot.
Well, neither can Margie.
Right. And unfortunately, in that race, just some low information voters decided to still vote for him. And that caused it to go to another election, which just further cluttered the November ballot, which is already full. And for a candidate who'd already pulled out and legally could not run. Right. That's why he did, because as a legislature, a bill came up to increase the pay that disqualified him for running for an office that he just did a pay increase for. Mm-hmm. See, so anyway, those are the kinds of things where, they didn't mean to be a spoiler. So I don't want to trash people in that situation.
No. That's not what I'm speaking of. But but
it's the people that run every time.
and you know who you are, and you know who we're speaking of.
Palte. I said, Palte is a friend of mine. Okay, which speaks more about my ability to make friends than But they used to be back in the 80s and 90s. Virginia Jenner was that perennial candidate, and then she moved to another county.
There was another one too, a little later than that.
Well, Evelyn Rogers.
Sorry, I'm not. I'm trying to stop naming names, man.
Yeah,
that's not the one. That's not the one, by the way. But I'm glad. So just stop.
Okay.
Stop. Okay,
we
will stop. That's Dave, Mr. Unfiltered here, but. In any event,
I've had my coffee today, Eddie.
I guess I can tell. My goodness, I haven't had mine. I'm trying to get off of coffee, but it's really rough when you try to get off. It's like any other drug, the caffeine, and you start having withdrawal issues. With me, the worst one in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I'm through that point is headaches. I get migraines. From lack of caffeine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If I've had caffeine for a while, even chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's my kryptonite right there, chocolate. But so if I eat chocolate and then the next day, massive behind one eye, or mine are really bad because the first day it'll be behind this side, the next day it'll be here, and then the third day it's here. And then finally it goes away. So I have to take these migraine pills. And they work. I mean, but a couple of times I've been without them. And oh man, it's rough.
Well, I'm glad you got a lot of people. There is no medicine that really treats.
Yeah,
them.
I've heard that. I feel really bad. In fact, I've heard years ago of soldiers. On guard duty, where they had to do guard duty, and their sergeant or whatever wouldn't let them off guard duty, and the migraines were so intense they committed suicide. I mean, that's for those of you who have never had a migraine or don't understand migraines, they're truly debilitating. I mean, you almost go insane because it hurts so bad. It blurs your vision. You can't focus. You can't think of anything else. You try everything to think about something else. You try to sleep. You just can't do anything. Well,
in full disclosure, because I know you care about people and that, what works for you? You mentioned a medicine, but you didn't tell me what it is.
Oh, there are two. There's one is rizatriptan.
Okay.
The name, what do you call it? The
brand name.
Yeah, the brand name is Maxalt.
Maxalt.
But then they've got the generic is rizatriptan.
Okay.
That's an expensive one.
Yeah.
That's old. But then the other one is sumatriptan. That's a cheaper one.
Okay.
And I found for me, sumatriptan now works until it doesn't. And then I go to the Maxalt or the rizatriptan.
When did migraines first start impacting your life? Well, how old were you?
I think 40.
Oh,
Here's the funny one. So my doctor writes me this prescription for, first he was giving me samples.
nice.
So
I
yeah,
like those
he
doctors.
gave me like 50 samples. So they lasted me for a year,
Mhm.
maybe 6 months actually. So they ran out. So then he wrote me a prescription. So I went to the doctor and I got a prescription for 50 of these.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I go to the pharmacy and my bill was $60.
Mhm.
I said, $60 for 50 of these things?
Mhm.
And the guy says, look at your bill.
Mhm.
You know, I was with insurance and I said,
Wow.
60. So I looked at my bill. Your insurance saved you $2,940.
So that's like $50 a pill, $60.
$60 a pill.
Yeah.
$60 a pill. And so I went to the doctor. I said, are you kidding? He said, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, go to Canada.
Mm.
So I started getting them from Canada,
Yeah.
where they were at that time $12 a pill.
Yes.
And then from Canada, because they came up with some deal where you couldn't get them from there. So then I had to go through Jamaica or
Right.
the Bahamas or somewhere.
Yep.
But they were getting them from India.
Yes.
Indian pharmacies were
Mhm.
making, but it was the same stuff. So anyway, but I didn't care.
Yeah, no, I had to do the same thing. I actually had a family member that this is before the whole Obamacare thing. And because of pre-existing conditions, Blue Cross wouldn't even offer her a policy.
Right.
And well, anyway, so yeah, I went through Winnipeg, CanadaDrugs.com. And then I had a big argument with my congressman because he was writing legislation to make it a crime for me to do. In fact, there's a business just up the road here, 6 blocks at Fontana, that was just helping people to do it for a fee. And they raided them, the feds did, and shut them down. And he had to lawyer up. And, and I just chewed out my tongue. And, the next election, we ran him out of office. Because I was mad. I told him, I said, look, John, Walgreens wants to charge me $600 and I can get them for less than half that in Winnipeg.
Which is still expensive,
right?
If you think about it, but it was half of the 600.
Yeah. And I said, John, you said you're for free trade. For who? Your big buddies? What about the little guy? Yeah. And he tried to say, well, there's programs if you can't buy. I said, no, John, I'm not that poor. But I just want the government off my back. I don't want a handout.
Yeah, bringing that to current times. Mm-hmm. See, this is one of the reasons that Trump lost, I believe. Big Pharma turned on it.
Yeah.
And Big Pharma, because he made prescription costs, he lowered them. And he put a limit on what these drug companies were making. So they got rid of him.
But then Biden did the same thing.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
It's kind of a bait.
But he claims he did.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a bait and switch. He didn't really. In fact, my Medicare patients out there, you're going to see a reality check this next Medicare season when you get your new formularies and things. A lot of your coverage is going to change this time. They're taking benefits away and things like that.
When will we see that happen?
October 15th is when everything comes out.
Okay, that will be,
but it won't be effective until January 1st.
It's important to distinguish that then, and that's going to be a last.
Yeah, annual enrollment begins on October 15th through December 7th. Well, but it starts effective January 1st.
What I'm getting at is I'm glad that that's being announced before the election.
Yeah, that's true. It does need to be announced before the election.
Because if they do it November 15th, everyone's going to say, you see, we elected Trump and now it went up.
Yeah.
And they're going to demagogue that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In fact, they'll still do it. If he wins, they're going to say, look what happened, but it will be because of what Biden did prior to. Exactly. Yeah. They're cutting benefits, raising prices, et cetera, on things. And
So we'd actually have to change the U.S. Constitution to fix this problem. And I'll tell you why it's cheaper in Canada.
Tell the people.
In Canada, they give a patent protection of 7 years. In the United States, it's 17 years. So after 7 years in Canada, they have to compete with the generics. So in order to stay effective, they lower their price there. Now, it's that patent protection that helps them to cover the cost of the research and development. So what's happening in the United States for the next 10 years after that 7-year honeymoon, you and I have to keep paying the real high price that recoups their investment. Whereas the Canadians and several other countries, where it's only 7 years, we're subsidizing low prices in Canada is what's happening. And I explained this to John. He knew it, but I still said it so he knew that I knew it. I said, I'm willing to pay my fair share, but you want me to pay the Canadian share.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening.
Yeah, but that's true. And but what's also happening now is that the generic prices are starting to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So they get you coming and going.
Yeah,
the pharmaceutical and the excuse always is research and development. If you want us to continue, listen. Here's the real truth. Okay, you cannot stop innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, did Alexander Graham Bell was he promised $1 billion for inventing the light bulb? I mean, I'm sorry, the telephone. Edison in the light bulb. Yeah. Let me get these guys. It's like Austin Powers, $1 million. No, Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone. George Washington Carver and the peanut. These guys, they didn't do it. It just, they wanted to be the first to do it.
Sure.
Elon Musk, for example, he's got all the money on Earth. He doesn't need more money.
Yeah.
He wants to be the first guy to get take a group of people into space, right? Yeah. And Bezos does too. So you got Bezos, Elon, and what's the guy from England? Richard Branson. Mm-hmm. So you got these three guys all wanting to have the first, space tourist ship, or something like that, who wants to be the first to the moon, who wants to be the first to Mars, all of these things. Yeah. And it's just the nature of man. But then behind them come the merchants. Yeah. Right? The guys who, and the crooks. I mean,
Well, yeah, just look at Charles Lindbergh. They offered, I think it was like $40,000, which is a lot in that day. Mm-hmm. But the speaking engagements and everything else, he made way more off the publicity than he did off of that one award for being the first. But that's not nearly as much as all of the world airlines that are making bukus of money now flying, because he was the first, showed him it could be done.
The first. Yeah, it's just, but even so, as I said, Christopher Columbus just wanted to be the first guy to discover this new land, the new world. Mm-hmm. He knew it was out there and he was going to find it.
India's out there somewhere.
Yeah, he went and find the new route to India, and those Indians. but no, it's just in our nature. The first one to hit the summit of Mount Everest, right?
Yeah.
I came to New Mexico, Holloman Air Force Base in 1959. Mm-hmm. And it was that year that Captain Kittinger jumped out of a balloon at 119,000 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I remember with our Boy Scout troop, we sat there and watched the film of him doing it. right up. But it was right there. You know, I got to see the gondola and his balloon because it was right.
Yeah, and it was black space above him, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was in outer space. Yeah, and he free fell for like, I don't know what it was. It was 10 miles or something like that before he could even get back. And he had frostbite all over him. It was totally.
Yeah.
But he was the first. But then, and what's interesting, he ended up, I mean, he was quite a guy. He was captain. Then he ended up flying fighters in Vietnam. I mean, he was actually still stayed in the air and became a fighter, or he was already a pilot.
Yeah.
But then he flew fighter jets and actually flew missions in Vietnam, and then finally retired as a colonel. But anyway, what's interesting is when the the company that does all these has the race cars and they do all of the. There's a company now that does all of these.
Oh gosh, there's so many of them. I mean, Penske, are you talking about?
No. These guys do all of the modern type of racing and events.
Okay, yeah,
skydiving. They do the parasailing, and the guys with the wings. You know that.
Oh yeah.
What is their name?
I forget the name, but of course, a lot of those are sponsored by things like Red Bull and Monster Drink and all that.
Yeah, it's Red Bull, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it is Red Bull.
Yeah, they're the big ones.
Yeah, Red Bull. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
See, Dave. See, this is why Dave.
But they're more promoters than anything.
Well, right, but they actually sponsor all of these things. Anyway, there's a guy who decided he was going to go higher than Kittinger.
Yeah,
but Kittinger was on his ground crew, communicating with him and setting it all up and telling him what to expect and everything.
Right.
And so you can go on YouTube and watch this. This guy went up to 129 or 130,000.
This was the one like 10, 15 years ago, right? Maybe 20.
No, not that far.
Okay.
It's maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's the one I recall.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, the Kittinger one's a black and white one. And it's so funny when you see him, he's in this bulky astronaut suit, like a suitcase, he's all, and it's this big gondola. And then he lumbers.
And Kittinger's down there saying, wear thicker gloves.
Yeah. And Kittinger lumbers to the door and falls out.
I remember that.
And then he could have died because he started tumbling and everything.
That's right.
And it went out of control and he finally came back, passed out, I believe. But anyway, and so this guy who owns all kinds of skydive records and everything, he's a real daredevil, this other guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, you see him now, in this beautiful like gondola. It's just an open thing. Got cameras everywhere. You see him, and it's in 3D. It's in beautiful, vivid, 4D or 3D.
Yeah, it was
color.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and then he jumps out. And then you see him. He's free falling. And he's 10,000 feet higher than Kittinger was. And then he lands there in. I think it was also in New Mexico.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But and then Captain Kittinger was down on the ground to greet him and everything.
That is.
But anyway, it wasn't the money. It's not now. Money is always associated, but they just wanted to be the first. You take a guy that's become my hero. I didn't like him at first because he was an American. Oh, Usain Bolt.
Oh, yeah.
Fastest man alive.
Oh, yeah.
Usain, poor Jamaican kid, grows up just fast and just, outran everybody. Yeah. Still holds the world record.
Yes.
And he didn't do it for the money. He just wanted to be the champion.
Yeah.
He wanted Jackie Robinson, Joe Louis.
I think more Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali.
I mean, when I see Usain Bolt, I see that kind of Ali, the celebrating excellence.
Yeah, exactly. And what really made me a fan of Usain Bolt, there's a video that they have on YouTube. Somebody's filming, and this American, it's got to be an American, of course, sports guy comes up. So Usain, and they start the flag ceremony in the background that the USA had won. And they start the Star Spangled Banner. And here's the American. Usain, tell us. And Usain tells, wait, hey, stop. And he turns around and stops, quietly and stands at attention for the national anthem.
Yeah.
And he makes this guy shut up
Yep.
while they're playing our national anthem, not the Jamaican national anthem,
Yep.
but the American national anthem. He makes the guy respect our national anthem.
Yep.
And that, right, I get chills about it.
That is a spiritual principle. You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Or karma, as the Hindus call it, because you want people to respect you. You respect the other athletes who gave it their all.
Yeah, and it just shows the maturity of the guy that he understands what it's about, what it's really about. You know, it's not about me. It's not about I'm the man. I'm the da 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 da. You know, that there are things greater. And but it was just really kind of interesting that he had to school the American reporter on respect for the national anthem, and he's Jamaican, you know. But ever since then, ever since I saw that and other interviews I've seen, he's so mature now, and just the respect, he's just become quiet, and he helps others. In fact, he's the Abby Steiner. I'm a big fan of Abby Steiner.
Track star, University of Kentucky.
And the black girls hate her because, you know, she outran won the NCAA sprint champions in the 100, 200, and in the relays. So anyway, so they just, white girls not supposed to do this, you know, not supposed to happen.
Racist. Right.
So what happens, Usain has her join his track team. He has a track team now.
Really?
Yeah. And so she's on his track team. You know?
How is Abby Steiner fitting in the Olympics thing? Because she had a bad injury last year.
Well, no, it wasn't an injury. She had a heel spurt.
Well,
I didn't realize how bad that was. But then they showed a picture where the bone actually came out of her heel, and so she had She had to have surgery. She's also had ACL tear that she had.
Oh God, yeah.
That was before. That was in
college.
But
that can end your whole career,
right? But she came back from that, and that's when she won the NCAA. And now she had this heel spur last year, and she's had to come back from that train. So who knows? So she missed out. But you should see her. She was trying to be as strong as she could in the interviews after she didn't make it. She came fourth. Okay. And they only took the top three.
Okay, so she hasn't rehabilitated enough to make the Olympic team.
Right. And you know, and so, you know, but she finally broke down, you know, that because you could tell she really wanted to go.
It was a life goal.
Yeah, oh, sure. But here's the deal, you know, she's still got several years ahead of her.
Yeah.
To you know, to come back and knowing her with the motivation, we'll see next year. There'll be the World Championship for 3 more years, and then another Olympics. So we'll see how she does. It's a similar thing to Caitlin Clark.
Yeah,
you know, it's the angry black woman deal that they're hateful. They're just mean and hateful, which is so sad. You know, and not everybody. There are. I don't want to stereotype, but so many of these black women have been taught from the time they were little girls. And see, it's not even necessarily them, it's what they've been taught from the time they were little girls.
Yeah.
That their enemy is the white woman.
Yeah. It's that chip on their shoulder.
It is. And it just, it's the root of bitterness. The Bible calls it the root of bitterness. Yes. And that root of bitterness is planted in them from the time they're little girls. And it's a hard thing to deal with.
Well, they have to first acknowledge they got a problem.
Well, that's true.
But I want to go into Olympics a little bit later after you said something I've just got to say, I got to respond to. There are athletes that we hate, then we learn to love and appreciate, and then some kind of go full circle. Like, well, I'm not going to say athlete here. I'm going to say celebrity. Kanye West, when he, you know, crashed Taylor Swift's award and said, Beyonce should have got this. You know, I just, you are a no class prick. And
Wow.
he, but then later I came to understand and appreciate, plus have an awareness of his mental illness and stuff. And now I'm back to where he's a prick.
Well, but here's the funny thing. I think my view of Taylor is probably equal to the view of him.
That's it too. Yeah, I thought so highly of Taylor. Now I'm disgusted with her.
It's like they're neck and neck.
They're both
right? Yeah. It's like, what in the heck is going on? Oh. What happened to these people? And Taylor with her little sweetsy cutesy, Tim McGraw song that really put her. What really put her over the top for me. What really did it, and I don't know how many of our viewers know this, she actually got put on the map by Toby Keith.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that whole story.
Toby got her first contract.
Toby signed her. And when he passed away, she didn't even acknowledge it.
Right.
She didn't even say
because of politics.
Yeah. And that shows no class.
Yep.
No class. And she's gone the way of so many of these, doing like maybe not a full on, but almost like a black mass in the middle of her concerts. And parents are just taking their little girls to these things and think, oh, Taylor's just the world. We love Taylor. And look at it. I want my little girl to be like Taylor. Yeah. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
Oh, God.
Save us, please, Lord.
So, just two comments I want to meld together. Joe Rogan yesterday, I was listening to him. He had Jordan Peterson on. Fantastic. Watch it, okay? But he happens to mention something to Jordan about fighters in boxing and in Ultimate UFC. He said, when you're training, he says, you cannot stay in that place, but you have to work oftentimes up to a year to prepare for a fight. And it costs you everything. And I think of Abby Steiner, they're breaking out crying. It isn't just because she's missing a goal. It's look how much of her life she poured into it. All the things that a top world-class athlete has to give up for it. And so that adds context because all you sacrificed for it. The other thing I just wanted to say after, talking about the guys who went full circle, like Kanye West, is Mike Tyson. I used to have such disgust for the man. I mean, he bit Evander Holyfield's ear off because he didn't think he could fight a fair fight and win. And, but now you listen to Mike Tyson, a man of wisdom and integrity. He really is. Yeah. He's really changed.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much of it is just nothing other than peer pressure. It's the people you surround yourself with. What's the scripture say? Bad company corrupts good morals.
Good manners, yeah.
And it's just, it's true. I mean, when I think of, I don't know if I've told this story the night after I accepted Christ. It's the night after, the morning after.
Okay.
I called my friends, and the guy I had met after I got saved. We decided to go downtown, and he wanted to get high, and I turned it down. He said, "Here," I said, "No," but because I was so wrapped up in my salvation experience.
Yes.
I became a new creature. Before, I was honestly at the point where I thought I could never kick this habit.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was afraid. I thought I will never be able to stop this because I like it and I'm just hooked on it.
Yeah.
And that was weed. It was marijuana.
It was a very similar thing for me too.
And so I said, but he said, here. I said, no, I don't want it to. But anyway, so the next morning I called my friends. I wanted to go hang out with them. And so the first thing I did, the little sister of the girl and her brother that I usually hang out with says, the little sister, "Hey, Jesus freak." First thing, I mean, not, oh, hey, Eddie, hey, hi.
The word's getting around.
Yeah, already. I said, what in the heck? You know, I mean, and so this guy had called everybody to tell it, the nigga's crazy, the nigga's gone crazy. He's a Jesus freak now, you know. And so the first thing I said, oh no, I don't want to be a Jesus freak. You know, I mean, nobody wants to be a Jesus freak, you know, at that time. That was like being a nerd in the old days before it got rehabilitated, the term, or an Okie or something. So, but at the same time, it's the Lord told me, it's okay. I've got you. It's all right. Yep. You're mine now. You're mine. Yeah. It's a badge of honor. So I said, okay, I won't come over. But the people I had met the night before invited me to come to this big air base swimming pool to meet them. And so I said, well, I'll just go out there to this swimming pool and hang with these people. And it's the craziest thing. They met me the night before. Yeah. And I went out there and they accepted me and took me in like I had been their best friend from the beginning. Nice. I mean, it's just that's how it was. That's how, a God thing. That's how we Jesus freaks were. Yeah. You know, I mean, it was a hippie type thing. Yeah. Because that's the type of, you know, we were all young kids, you know, from 18 to 22, you know, and everybody was just, you know, so into the Lord and the peace and joy, because we'd all come out of the same experience, drugs, sex, rock and roll. And we all had been set free from the burden of the sin that we had been carrying. And so, and there was no looking back from that on. And it's funny because the older sister of the little girl that called me a Jesus freak, you know, I ended up leading her to the Lord later because she saw, you know, and she, sadly, so many of those friends, they couldn't stick with it. It just, for different reasons, they succumbed to the peer pressure. Yeah. Which is what we're talking about now. Yeah. That peer pressure to me is the greatest detriment to walking in the Lord. Yeah. And I want to say, similar to your experience, but it just kind of adds more credence to this, is when I knelt at the altar at a little Pentecostal church and said what called a sinner's prayer, right? You know, somebody led me in that. For the next week, I was kind of self-isolated. But at the end of that week, I was cleaning out my car on a Saturday morning. I opened the glove box and there was a bag of weed. And it surprised me. I'd gone a whole week, it hadn't even entered my mind that I used to lean on something like this to feel good. And I just held it up and like, what happened to me? You know, it's one of those things where you really realize your life has changed because you forgot all about this. You know, how far, and I took it in when we had a wood burning stove, because this is Minnesota in the winter. Right. And my dad saw me throw it in there, and he was one of my first Christian brothers, not just my dad, but he really helped me. And he just came up, hugged me. I mean, it was just one of those neat things that the prodigal sons come home. You know, so yeah. I mean, we have so many stories. There's so many stories of things that happen, and that I can laugh now. We can laugh now at certain things, but back then you think, wow, really? Yeah. Seriously? You know, but anyway. Can I tell you something? Since the last time you've been at that microphone for this, we were still speculating about who Trump's running mate's going to be. And by the way, you were wrong. I was right. It was Shady Vance. It wasn't Marco. Yeah. You know, Trump was getting ready for a documents case in Florida in federal court. Jack Smith. He was getting ready to do a rally that night in Butler, and we were excited to see how that rally went. Maybe he'll announce who his running mate is. And Biden was still adamant that he's going to be the candidate for president. Look what's gone on in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that still thinks Marco should have been the choice. He would have been a good choice. Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it all turns out. Trump generally has good instincts, so we'll see how those work out. But Biden has since left office. He's not.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Well, Biden has since then agreed to leave office or not seek re-election. Let's put it that way. He's not seeking re-election.
Yeah.
And which I think it would be good if he did for Trump, because people would get to see that there's nothing there.
The cackler in chief is there.
Right. Exactly. Now she just gets to go around and spread BS all over the place.
Yeah. And that cackler persona, that's her cover-up attempt. So we don't see the real witch that she is.
Right.
And because she's nasty.
Oh, she is.
She just, and vindictive. Yeah. And God, Tulsi Gabbard just nailed her at a debate.
And it's vapid. She's just, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There. There's no there.
Do you remember, what's his name? James O'Keefe had premiered a video of some people talking to Planned Parenthood people and soliciting buying dead baby body parts.
I remember that.
Do you know that those people that recorded that conversation, Kamala Harris prosecuted it and convicted them? Not the people selling body parts.
Right.
She went after them for somehow violating a state law on illegal here in Oklahoma.
Right.
If you're part of the conversation, you're allowed to record it without notification.
Right.
But in California, evidently, no, you have to have full disclosure. And that to her was the crime.
Well, of course it is when you're complicit in the crime. That's the deal. She supports that crime.
She's making big time bucks and campaign contributions for supporting that crime.
Yeah, she is an evil woman. She is an evil woman, and I can only pray that God judges her and keeps her out of the White House. That's the only thing. It's up to God how he chooses to judge her. But I just have to trust God. There's nothing we can do,
to me,
God has the power to remove her like he did Biden. I just pray he does it this side of the election.
Yeah. To me, she's Adolf Hitler's little sister. Because Adolf had a system where he was literally going into the ovens and collecting the gold from the teeth of the people. It's scorched to death.
Yeah.
And this is not much different, selling body parts.
Well, yeah. So she was now announced and anointed the successor in chief. And the final, I guess you would say, affirmation came yesterday when Barack and Mitchell agreed and gave their consent that she's to be the one. So that's pretty much over. It'll be her convention. I think the convention is going to be the pinnacle. From there, it'll probably be downhill all the way. And so they're going to build this up. And of course, the media is just giddy and then they're happy. But here's the deal. The way I look at it, Dave, I'm happy that they're so happy. That usually what happens when they get exuberant and they overplay their hand, that's when the mistakes start happening. They become their own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's true.
And because really nothing has changed. We still have the problem with the illegal immigration, which they have made legal basically and just open these borders. We still have the major inflation issues. You have crime issues. You have issues. It's just, it's the country's a mess. And then to put her face in the place of Biden's face, it's just.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, one of the worst performances of any of those candidates was Biden. I mean, he looked pathetic in all the debates. The only person who actually did worse than him was Harris. Yeah. She didn't even make it to the first primary because she was polling so low and run out of money. And she just hated. Her campaign appearances were horrible. You look at the Democrats this last time around had choices of Bobby Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, and Dean Phillips, all of which would have been better than Kamala. In fact, any one of those, Biden would have been smart to replace her on the ticket, months ago. But then you go back 4 years, you had, Klobuchar, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, oh my goodness, there was a number of them. I know Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, was one of those on there. I wouldn't say she would be any better. But I'm just saying they picked the worst ones. What is that term? It's not oligarchy. It's something that's where you're governed by the worst and least qualified. And Rush Limbaugh talked about it. I wish I didn't do enough show prep today. But yeah, this is a pathetic situation. Oh, and they're trying to make it look. Remember what Joe Scarborough said 2 weeks ago? This is as good as Biden has ever been. He is at the top of his game.
and then the day after the debate, he just slammed him.
Yeah.
The same guy who was the top of his game. Yeah. The next, 2 days later is just a dog we've got to get rid of. So, these people are just like animals that are herded. I mean, they're just, someone gives the signal, blows a whistle. It's like Pavlov's dog. Someone gives a whistle somewhere and they heal.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's running the show or who's blowing the whistle or ringing the bell, but they all come to heal.
Joe Rogan calls it a cult. It's like almost like you become diseased when they take the woke mentality.
I just hope that there are enough people truly not woke, but waking up to the other side to realize, no, we can't. This is crazy.
Well, you see a bunch of people who really weren't overtly spiritual in any way. All of a sudden, waking. I mean, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. I mean, yesterday, not just Jordan Peterson, a very prominent Christian, philosopher. He had another guy with fantastic Christian ministry, and Joe just talked about his ministry of outreach and caring for the poor and the needy.
Well, have you been following Russell Brand?
Oh yeah,
his whole journey.
Yes,
his baptism, and then
I know it.
And here's what's so weird about Russell Brand. He almost reminds me of the Apostle Paul because he's this guy that you just never would expect. And then the way I'm trying to figure out who it is that's discipling him, because the way he shares the truth is not in a overly spiritual way. Have you been watching his podcast where he discusses it?
I try to catch him almost every
and
podcast.
The things he says it and the way he says it are totally unspiritual, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not your churchianity that we're used to. It's not what you are used to hearing from TV preachers or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's a totally, like, if I'm hanging out at somebody's house or on the street and somebody's talking to me and sharing Jesus, it kind of reminds me of when we got saved back in the 70s.
Right.
Somebody that just got saved and sharing the Lord. I mean, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
Okay, so Russell Brand joined a book club studying Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
The thing about Mere Christianity, you take all the trappings of church and denominations and dogma and everything, you break it down to just simply you and Jesus.
So that may be okay. I didn't realize that. So
but here's a message to those of you who have made big business, hello churches, out of your empire. in calling that Christianity, okay, that's fine. It's Christianity. I'm not saying you're not authentic, but there's so much that we tend to add on that's not really the basics of Christianity.
Right, right.
You know, in fact, we had a Christian brother in who happens to be Catholic. We're getting ready for the show not too long ago here, and I said, the Bible says, "Forsake not assembling yourselves," but churches like to say, "Okay, it's a sin if you don't go to church at least once every 7 days, and then holy days, and you got to go forgive your confess your sins, seek forgiveness, and do all this." And there's none of that that's actually
necessary.
Dogma. Yeah. There's the Bible's full of principles. We make methodology out of it.
Right.
So
it reminds me of this story I heard of Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
And how he visited the Pope way back in the days, and they took him to the Vatican vault and showed him all of the wealth that the church had acquired. And the Pope told him, "We certainly can't say silver and gold have we none."
Yeah.
And Thomas said, "Neither can you say, in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, rise up and walk."
Oh, burn. Oh, burn. Oh, burn.
And, and that's kind of, the same, that we're so into our teaching of doctrine and saying it perfectly and everything, but yet the essence of mere Christianity, the power of the gospel. See, Paul talks about the power of the gospel. Is so lacking in so many ways. I mean, when me and my friends go back, and my wife even, we talk about those good old days, and I know you'll get a witness on this. When we were witnessing, I was saved a week, 2 weeks, a month, and I started sharing with people. Probably half, if not more, of what I was sharing was pure heresy.
Wow.
But it was leading people to the Lord.
That's something.
Because the essence of what I was saying was true. In other words, it was like, you chew the meat, spit out the bones. They would figure out later what was essential and what was not essential, what was true.
Right.
Like, I can't remember what I was saying.
But still, God found a way to reach those people, even with all the other stuff.
Exactly, because they could sense that there was a power, that there was something there that was true. Yeah. That was real. Yeah. And that there was a power there, a transformative power. And God was real. Yeah. And they may, I can't remember, let's say, Jesus is coming back real soon, or, he's going to be, here by the end of the year or something, because we all believed in the rapture, that's, everybody talking about the rapture and the days and the this and the months and, we'd be telling that, and regurgitating Lake Ray Planet Earth and didn't even get that right. Yeah. Totally right. But the message of God's forgiveness and how, because everybody's carrying around the same stuff, the crap that we were carrying around. Yeah. And so they were so happy just, or like, I remember, I remember when I got saved, we had a band, or several bands. There were Jesus bands, and they would always play on Friday night, a different one. And those bands knew that they were just reaching people. But to be honest with you, I didn't remember anything about the music or anything. What I remember was just the worship, the spirit, and the message. Yeah. And that basically the message that God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus said, "The words I speak to you, they are spirit and they're life." Yeah. It's the delivering of the Spirit of God.
Right. I knew I needed that. Yeah. So anyway, sorry guys, this has turned into kind of a preachy show, but
Well,
we go where it leads. So.
well, yeah, but I want to give an analogy on this. As you know, I've been very active advocating on mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people that's really been a mentor to me, I'll say his name, Steve Baker. He and his wife taught the class to really turn my world around about caring for a loved one with severe mental illness. And so really active. I got trained to teach the classes. Then I got elected onto the board. Then I was elected president of the local board and really went to advocating at the Capitol and was seen as a state authority on things. And I wrote this big article in the state of our public mental health thing. And none other than Kathy Costello, whose, severely mentally ill son murdered her husband on her lap. He literally bled and died on her lap. And she called me Easter Sunday at night. She said, Dave, the state commissioner of mental health just called me. Want to know who this David Benrisigham is, if I know him. And she said, yeah, I know David and his wife and that. Yeah, wonderful people are in Tulsa. And Kathy said, well, Dave, she's asking, she said, if I go to Tulsa, will he meet with me? Would he agree to? Because I ripped apart the whole State Department of Mental Health and everything. And I said, oh, Kathy, I'll go there, but you're coming with me, because she's seen as a very prominent person. And I wanted somebody I trusted there. And here's where I'm getting at out of that. We went through all kinds of things. I was in the conference room with her entire top level staff, chief of staff, deputy commissioner, everything. And she's just asking me all kinds of questions for 2.5 hours. And she says, okay, tell me, do you guys in NAMI have anything that's directed towards men? Here's the trick, Eddie. All of these organizations are run by women. In NAMI, I was the first guy that they elected president in a long time. And they devised all these things, support groups and everything, and it's all designed to appeal to women. And I wonder why men aren't involved. And I'm only involved because my buddy Steve Baker, who went with me to the meeting, was helping me, and we kind of encouraged each other. And I turned to, at the time it was Terry White, the commissioner, and I said, Terry, men don't go to support groups. They go fishing with each other. And they may not have a bite on their bobber all day. And they will talk and they'll share and they'll help and they'll give advice to each other. But don't you call it a support group, because men don't go to support groups. My point is, they made something that was comfortable and fit their culture. And the church is no different, Eddie. This is the point I wanted to drive home from this. Is sometimes we make religion into something that we can assimilate into our culture. And then people who aren't part of that culture get turned off. It isn't Jesus they're turned off to. As one guy said, I love Jesus. It's his fiance I can't stand. The bride of Christ in the church. Yeah. So anyway, I know that was a long go around to get to my point.
It was.
But but it goes to your issue about there's some people that are not turned off by God in their life, but the trappings of Christianity as we made it.
Yeah, I had a neighbor in Germany, and he found out we were Christians and just kind of made it a point to just his kids, just antagonize us, antagonize us. Anyway, and he and one day I had a talk with him. I said, "What's your deal? What is your deal with Jesus?" Or he said, "Oh, I don't have anything against Jesus Christ or Christianity. I just don't like the church, or I don't like anything about it." I said, "Really?" And then as I dug a little deeper, I found in Germany, for example, I think we've talked about it, you have to pay a church tax.
Yes.
And all of their Protestant and Catholic pastors and priests are paid out of the tax.
God.
Yeah. So you pay a church tax, and you have to declare, are you Protestant or Catholic? So the Catholics' taxes go to pay for their priests. The Protestants' taxes go to pay for the Protestant, which are Lutheran. It's got to be the official church. Then they have what they call the free church, which is all the others. which are like certain recognized ones. Now, if you're just certain denominations of Baptist or Pentecostals, then you're considered a cult.
Mm.
And it just gets real crazy, you know.
What about the atheists?
Atheists, what you can do, you can opt out. And even like we didn't pay it. We just had to, you could opt out, but you had to pay a fee to opt out of paying taxes.
Wow.
Yeah, you pay a one-time fee,
Okay.
and then you don't have to declare your.
So monetarily, you're better off monetarily to declare yourself an atheist and opt out.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're subsidizing atheism.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And then in school, for example, they it's so funny because the issue with Ryan Walters and Christian education, supposedly Bible and Christian education in schools, which I want to discuss that, by the way, because there's an article in the paper yesterday.
Okay.
But anyway, you can declare a Catholic, you can declare Protestant, which is Lutheran, or you can declare ethics.
Uh-huh.
So if you're Catholic, then you go to the Catholic class every day, and then you get Catholic instruction. If you declare Protestant, then you go for Catholic instruction. And then if you declare neither, then you have to, but you got to take something. Wow. I mean, it's the funniest thing. These Europeans, they have some kind of ethical instruction for their kids that the kids have to go to. We don't have that here. See, so now we've gotten rid of everything. I mean, at least we should have ethics. If we're not going to have a religion, we got the freedom from religion, basically, but we don't have the ethics either. So over there, you can decide you want to go to a Catholic class, and it's only for primary school. And ethics, they just teach you about being good, what's moral and what's not moral, and yeah. So, but anyway, finally, I've been arguing with people on Facebook for about a month.
Any argument?
No, about this subject, and it's about the Ryan Walters Bible classes.
Yes.
Okay, and I've been trying to tell people he's not teaching the Bible. Okay.
Well, how come the news reports don't clarify that?
Because they don't want to. Yeah. So finally, the Tulsa. No. I'm sorry. No, it's not the Tulsa World. It's ABC News.
Yeah.
It was a national article.
Yeah.
It was ABC News that finally had to clarify that they're not teaching the Bible in Oklahoma schools. What they're teaching is the validity or the value of the Bible and the historical aspects of the Bible as in addition to other books.
Yeah, the significance of certain writings on philosophy.
There you go. Yeah, you put that much more eloquently than I have. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's all it is. They're not having Bible classes in school.
Right.
Okay. And then they put the Bible in the library so that if kids want to go and look up a Bible or whatever, they can do that. So finally, it took ABC News to report it. Something that the Tulsa World has failed to do. Yeah. Which really ticks me off. The Tulsa World, the Oklahoma Daily Rag, or whatever it is, should a long time ago have put this to bed. But they don't want to because they hate Ryan Walters. They hate what he's done and what he's doing. They're trying to get rid of him. So they don't want to report it properly. Yeah.
You see, another example would be Thomas Jefferson, heavily influenced by John Locke, French libertarian philosopher. And if Jefferson's referencing John Locke in phrases in our Declaration that come from that, then you'll want to say, okay, here's who he's referring to. Here's the body of work that John Locke. It's no different than that. It's basically philosophy class.
Right. And the other thing that people don't understand, the letter that Jefferson was responding to, which started the whole, separation of church and state.
Right. Yeah.
I believe that they misread it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not saying that you have to remove people's faith
Mm-hmm.
from a government or from religion.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, or from daily life.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how it's been interpreted, that from the state. That's what I'm trying to, separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Okay. The church has never since our independence, because that's why we left England. That's why we had our independence, because the church was running England. You had the Church of England and you had the Catholics. There were bloody wars. Was Bloody Mary?
Yeah.
Remember the whole story of Bloody Mary?
Yeah.
That's because she wanted to wipe out, was she Catholic?
Yeah.
She was Catholic and wanted to kill all the Protestants, and then you had the Protestants come along and want to kill all the Catholics.
Was that Mary Queen of Scots? Or is that a different person?
I think that was a different one. I'm not sure that there were a lot of Marys.
Yeah, I can't even get American history, much less English history.
I don't want to. But that was that whole thing, and that's why we were founded on religious liberty. But that wasn't to say that you cannot teach religious class in or teach faith. See, what we've gotten to, there's a difference in teaching religion and in teaching faith. In other words, that you believe in God, but you don't have to believe in a religion. See, religion and faith are two different issues. And that's what I think people are mixing up. Religion is how you practice your faith.
Yeah, I've got a little bit different take.
No, but listen, it's what I'm saying. So, okay, so for example, if your religion says that we go to church, we don't eat from sun up or sundown on Friday night to sundown on Saturday evening, that's your religion. Okay. Or you go to church on Sunday and there's, we don't eat fish on Friday. That's your religion. Okay. Yeah. But the faith in God, we all, for the most part, believe in God, or your faith is that, man, I am the master of my fate. I am my captain of my soul. That is your fate.
Yeah. No, what I want to get just in referencing how our nation was formed. The Constitution, as we understand it, is not how our nation was formed. It was 13 colonies, independent colonies, formed a commonwealth. Basically, it was a confederacy.
Right.
That word confederacy didn't come from the Civil War. It came from them.
The Confederation of States.
Every one of those states had a state religion. Maryland was Catholic. Okay. I think Pennsylvania was Quaker, and but some of them had that kind of plurality or the neutrality. But most of those states actually funded a state seminary. And that continued on for the next 100 years until the 14th Amendment was ratified and then tested in the courts. And that's when the states, because the 14th Amendment took those prohibitions on federal government and applied them to state government, because that's literally how the language of 14th Amendment changed everything else. And it then 100 years later.
You sure it's the 14th Amendment?
It was 14th. 13th was slavery. 14th Amendment added to independence for Black people and citizenship rights.
Right.
But it also put those requirements on the states and local government because of the way it's worded. And that was kind of an afterthought. People at the time didn't realize what they were doing. But this is what homogenized us. Because before the Civil War, we referred to that the United States are, and afterwards the United States is, because we truly were. In fact, most of those originally 13 colonies still refer to themselves not as states, but as commonwealths. Right. And I remember being in rural Virginia about 25, 30 years ago, and at a hotel, the guy said, don't call us a state, we're a commonwealth.
That's also one of the core issues of the Civil War, that those states thought they still had their independent rights as a state, right?
Yeah. In fact, I moved down here and an old guy says to me, he says, we don't call it the Civil War, we call it the War of Northern Aggression, because it was the northern states imposing certain things on the southern states. Right. Yeah. And look, I'm not in that battle. I know. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Other than the issue of slavery being at the core of it, I have to, in some ways, agree with them. I agree philosophically, right?
Right, philosophically, I agree, even though I disagree with the whole core issue of slavery and everything. But in some ways, I wish we could return to the states' rights. Yeah.
The thing they're lying about, it was actually the southern states that seceded and went to war.
Right.
They attacked federal troops at Fort Sumter.
Yes, that's right.
So the South, they're trying really hard. Some people still hanging on to that issue.
Yeah, they do.
And because I
just think like OU still thinks they should have beat Texas Tech in that one game.
Texas Tech guy here.
And Texas still thinks they beat OU and
pistols firing.
Yeah. No, that's OSU. Yeah. That's OU. OSU has pistols firing. We don't have pistols firing.
He thinks this sign belongs to Texas Tech.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
And everybody else.
No. It doesn't belong to us only. I'm just saying we originated it.
Yeah. I know.
The gun's up.
I just pressing his buttons.
I know.
Poking the
We also, never mind. We're out. Let's stick to the theme.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were dealing with the whole issue of a faith.
Yeah, tolerance of multiple religions, right?
Right. And so I think if we allowed the issue to be faith versus religion, and I talk about that here in my book, Y'all Have Sinned, that you can separate faith and religion, but you can talk about freedom of religion or imposing stop or limits on freedom of religion. For example, Islam and Sharia law, which basically says that women can't do this, or you can beat women, or you can have slaves, whatever a religion may dictate, or whatever certain dogma of religion. But you cannot regulate or contain faith, because faith is an individual right that is endowed by our Creator to every man.
Yeah.
So I can't say, Dave, you can't believe.
Right.
And you can't share your belief with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. The Catholics have a term I've heard different priests refer to, freedom of conscience. That a person's conscience, they own, and you cannot, violate that. You cannot force somebody to deny their own conscience. That's the problem we're running into with the new left, which is tyrannical and very, intolerant. And they are shutting down speech. You don't believe it? Go to Catholic, or go to any college campus, especially state universities.
Yeah. See, atheists are the biggest hypocrites on earth.
Yeah.
Because basically, atheism is a faith. In other words, it's the faith to believe that there is no God. It's the faith that believes man is the highest consciousness that there is, that man created everything that we see around us, and without a God. And that it takes faith to believe that. that this stuff just happened. It just that there was a big bang, and that's your faith.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to say that we can't preach faith, then you have to take evolution also.
Mhm.
You have to take the Big Bang Theory.
Right.
All of that needs to be taken out of school too.
Yeah.
You can teach no beginning to
Exactly.
life.
They're
No
saying
beginning to
that's truth, that's science, and this is religion.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a lie. That is hypocritical because you have as much right to believe that in the beginning God as they have to say in the beginning a big bang.
Mhm.
Because what bang?
Yeah.
What banged?
Yeah.
You know, how did it bang? There are all kinds of questions about the bang.
Yeah.
You know, if I kept going, I'd end up with a song about the
in
bang.
My 10th grade biology, which was required, everybody had to take it, life science. There were a couple of professors. This is in the height of the baby boomer era where, I mean, the schools were packed. We were sharing lockers,
Right.
And so there were several teachers teaching it in the science department. And I had John Allen. He taught the whole evolution thing as fact. But we had another guy. There's a lot of my friends got the class from him. He got to the whole evolution chapter, which is like 2 or 3 in the book. And he said, we are skipping this chapter. I don't believe this chapter. It's unproven. And we're moving to the next chapter. And those kids just got to go on to the next. They had more time, less tests, less things they had to do. And you know what? He won his battle with the school board and the principal because he said, they are both faith systems. And I'm either going to teach 2 as theories or none and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Remember, how did Darwin's belief in it, which is a belief, how did it begin? How was it first classified?
You tell me.
The theory of evolution.
Yeah. In fact, any book, at least back then, they would call it a theory at the beginning when they introduce it.
Right.
And then they would refer to it as fact thereafter.
Right. Yeah. See, nowadays, I mean, it's just accepted fact, evolution.
Yeah.
No, it was his theory of evolution.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about it before, that the actual name of his book, Origin of the Species.
Yes.
And the
Preservation of the Most Favored Races.
There it is.
Yes.
Preservation of
It's a flat out racist book.
Favored races. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That nobody, it's funny. I never grown up, none of my teachers, nobody ever gave the full title of the book.
Yeah. See,
it was always the origin of the species.
Right. You see how globally this kind of an ideology of globalism right now is so prominent all over Europe and all over the world. Back in the 1920s, it was racism. I mean, Charles Lindbergh, when he was in Germany, he told Hitler's people, he says, I believe the Scandinavians are the superior race because he's Scandinavian. And you had this melting pot going on for the last 30 years in the United States where everybody just kind of cloistered to their own kind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the county I grew up in, you had little towns all over and they were distinctly ethnic.
It was more smelting pot.
Yeah. I mean,
they're separated.
Little town Sobieski. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sobieski was just Polish. The one church in that town is Catholic, St. Stanislav, who's the patron saint of Poland.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to Flensburg, and by God, it's not just German, but it's Bavarian German.
Did I tell you this story? I just discussed this with somebody when I was in Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah.
North Philly. And I would go to the skating rink with my cousin. And to get there, you could go through the shortcut was through this neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I couldn't go because they would throw rocks at us.
Yeah.
The white kids.
Yep.
And they were mostly like Irish kids. And but I look in there, see, my friend Quigley, who I sat next to in Catholic school. I said, Monday I'd see Quigley again. I'd be sitting next to the guy, and he's there throwing rocks at me and yelling at me with his friends to keep us from going through his neighborhood. So I had to walk all the way several blocks around his neighborhood to get to the skating rink on the other side of his neighborhood. Yeah. But it was almost like those Roadrunner cartoons where when the whistle blew, they start fighting, and then the whistle blows their friends. So when we were in school, we're all good, we're friends, but when the whistle, then we fight. I mean, it's just crazy, how that was. But that's just how it was. So
my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandmother come from Belgium here. Their goal, their dream was to become farmers, which was very unattainable in Belgium at that time because families owned land and never gave it up. And he was a butcher. Well, he comes over for a short period of time. He works for the railroad up in Rock Island Railroad and Northern Illinois. Well, eventually, his wife and kids come over later, and then they buy a farm and start farming in the middle of South Dakota. And they spend 1 year farming out there, and they have a reality check. Because now the boys are in their early to mid-teens, and all the other farmers have farmers' daughters who are Lutheran, Scandinavian, Swedes. And my great-grandma realizes they stick around there, and their sons are going to end up turned into Lutherans by these girls. And you can't have that. So they uproot after 1 year of their life dream of farming on the Dakota Prairie and move to a Catholic settlement in central Minnesota and start farming there where there's other good Catholics. Because
good Catholics instead of bad Catholics.
Yes. And this is the cloistering, and we're seeing it now. You go into Somali neighborhoods, like right now, Trump is actually getting ready in St. Cloud, Minnesota. My friend who lives in going on down at about years ago at the local shopping mall. One of the Somalis down there stabbing people happened to be an off-duty concealed carry instructor. Come in, happened to have his gun, blasted the guy, and he went on to his 70 virgins. But this is the kind of problem you have when you have these cloistering like that. But it's natural people do that. The Swedes, Little Italy, Chinatown.
Yeah. But see, that's we can transition into another whole discussion, because this is very important. And the Democrats in power.
Yes,
this is what they want, and I really don't understand it except for one reason, okay? And this is what I want you to understand. I want you to tell you're doing this, is because they want a unity, they want one world, but they want a true dividing and separate class, a clear distinction of class, which is a ruling class, a true elite. See, it goes back to Margaret Sanger, W.E.B. Du Bois, these people that believed that you could literally breed into a higher echelon of people, and that's who they needed to work on. But to keep those people fed, clothed, and producing the higher thought, you've got to have the worker bees. And this is what I am convinced that they're doing.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of the mass.
Yeah.
You don't want a middle class, because if you have a middle class, the middle class will want to continually reach that upper class, and you want a clear distinction.
Yeah.
And so this is what's going on. And that's what we have to fight. That's the fight that we are truly fighting.
Yeah. So my daughter, just getting close to 10 years ago, Hunger Games first comes out. And she drags Dad to the theater for the premiere Hunger Games, and we kept going to all the sequels together and that. And, I explained to her, I said, we're actually living in the Hunger Games. We just don't know it. Because in the Hunger Games, there's a capital district, which the people have all the wealth, all the power and everything. And somebody said the other day, the 5 counties that are within 40 miles of the U.S. Capitol are the wealthiest 5 counties in the nation. Okay. Why? Because they collect our taxes and amass their wealth off of our taxes. Meanwhile, they have the other districts fighting each other, sometimes to the death. What Barack Obama did, and I was explaining this to my daughter, I said, look, what Obama did was continue to pit us against each other. He was not the unifier. He was the divider early on. She couldn't believe it. And I said, remember his comment about the cops acted stupidly?
Stupidly, yeah.
And I can't believe that cop he knuckled under, went to the beer summit, and never held on to Obama. You undermine the police in all law enforcement. And I've seen a lot of Democrat law enforcement switch to Republican over that issue, over Obama, because he was denigrating law enforcement. The whole George Zimmerman and Trayvon, and that Trayvon has nobody but himself to blame for his death.
Oh, yeah, Trayvon, yeah.
Trayvon Martin. But Obama continued to stoke that, saying, if I had a son, he'd look a lot like Trayvon.
Well, no, you know what? I'm thinking back. No, today's not the day, but I would love to discuss the Trayvon, George Zimmerman deal. George Zimmerman, I think, should have been punished for his action.
Okay. Who started the fight?
We don't know.
Okay. I saw testimony and a jury convinced enough by that testimony that.
Well, of course. But
okay.
I don't want to discuss it now.
All right.
We'll have to.
Okay.
We'll litigate this another time.
Yeah. We've gone down enough rabbit trails today.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
But Olympics, I did want to get back to that.
Yeah, let's get to the. But anyway, let's do the political aspect first.
Good.
We know now that Kamala Harris is the choice. They're going to stick with her, at least for now, it appears. And the momentum is picking up, and the Democrats are gleeful. Everybody's on board now. Hillary and Bill and Barack and Michelle and everybody, they're singing Kumbaya and they're excited. Hi-ho, Adario.
Yeah. Do you notice who was leading from behind on that? Obama was the last person to come around.
Yeah.
He's not a leader. He's a follower.
Well, yeah.
He stuck his finger in the air.
I don't think that was so much the case. I think he wanted there's another way of looking at that. He wanted to make a show of his. He wanted to show that he had the real power.
Oh, okay.
In other words, the fat lady has not sung until Barack and Michelle gave their okay.
He was the keynote speaker.
Yeah, because if you notice, they were still everybody, but we haven't heard from Barack.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Barack.
It's the drama.
Finally, Barack and Michelle have spoken. Yeah. That's how I see it. He just wanted to make his vote count.
I think both are true. I think it worked out the way you said, but it also, he looked to see, is there any other momentum behind anyone else?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because I think he really was behind her from the beginning. Yeah. I think he really was. And to be honest, he probably didn't care, because he plans to still be the puppet master no matter who's in there. And if it's Michelle, he was probably negotiating the terms from behind the curtain the whole time.
I think Obama's gotten in trouble a few times from his wife over other women flirting with him. And there was a particular time when she was Attorney General, Kamala Harris, and he was out there and he starts talking about her looks from the microphone, basically saying she's the hottest looking age, and that I think he had to answer to Michelle when he got back to the White House, because the same thing happened when he was at to Mandela's funeral. And some head of state from Denmark, hot-looking blonde lady, was just flirting with him. He was like, yeah.
I don't want to get off because because there's other things I could be bringing in at this point on that. But that's going to be the battle now. So we'll see. What's good though, I'm glad that Trump and the team are not jumping right out there. If you notice, it's been strangely quiet.
Yeah. There is more evidence that Kamala Harris comes from a slave owner family than that she has any slave or African blood in.
Right. Yeah. Bahamian. Right. From the Jamaican. I'm sorry, Jamaican slave owners. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we do know that she's
Indian.
Yeah.
More from India. Yeah. From India. Indians.
So she would be the first Asian president.
Right. Asian. And then you've got the Jamaican, right?
But evidently.
And Canadian.
Yeah.
It's like she's from all over the place, but yeah. So we'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, but the black ladies think she's black.
Yeah, well, they're so eager to grasp at anything right now that just,
Well, they have everybody in the Democrat Party terrified about the black women are going to revolt if you get rid of her.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, there's certain ones, but the smart, intelligent black women know better. They don't want, because she's an idiot. I mean, the lady's an idiot. Yeah. So anyway, so what do we have? 1 week or 2 weeks until the Democrat convention?
Their convention itself isn't till
it's after the Olympics. I know.
It's like the third week, I think, of August.
Yeah. So we got about 3 weeks then. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. See what happens between now and then. And there's still a lot of. See, here's the deal. What I'm interested in seeing, what this does to the Hispanic vote and to the Asian vote, which are going to be pretty important this time. And to the sane white vote, the non-woke white. Reverting to my German. Yeah. To the non-woke white vote.
Yeah. I talked to an old friend of mine. I mean, I can go way back, but he's become very liberal as a state government worker in Arizona. And we were talking the other night about Christian music and stuff. And he says, Dave, I'm just going to tell you, I cannot vote for Trump. I said, okay, And I said, so you're going to be a Harrison? Oh, no, I cannot vote Democrat either. I said, well, then check into Bobby Kennedy, because maybe there's some things about him I like, but I thought, because Arizona is an important state, it's going to be close. And I thought, well, as long as we neutralize it, it's better than losing him to another Democrat vote. And
I just don't get that. I don't know how people cannot vote for Trump. I mean, to me, you've got to have your head under a rock, or you just.
He's one of what Rush Limbaugh says, the good time rock and roll FM type, low information voter. It's, it's who you listen to. Yeah,
it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. We've got these certain friends and neighbors that are the same. And there's a picture of Trump, like looking like Satan. And this neighbor of mine posted it, and it's just like, but for the good news is that everybody just slammed him on Facebook, saying this is ridiculous. Yeah. And they're still coming up with the same stuff that, he lies. And I said, are you serious? You can form your lips to say he lies when you've got Biden?
Right.
Lying Biden.
They're lying about him. Remember a couple months ago, you and I were at the Republican Men's Club, and an old guy, like 93 years old, gets up and hands out this big multi-leaflet full of lies. Yeah. They said he was convicted of rape.
Right.
No, he was never convicted.
never
He was never
convicted.
charged with rape.
Never tried. Exactly. It was defamation of character is what he actually.
For a woman who lied about him.
Right.
You know, so it's nuts.
Yeah, it is. And that case is still under appeal.
Yes.
And I think he's going to win that case when he gets done. That lady is not getting $90 million, whatever it was, because there's no proof. I mean, there's so many holes in that case.
Yeah.
The only thing they can hope for is that it's going to come, and everybody's going to look stupid afterwards. But if he were to lose, they'll say, it was worth it. It was worth it because
that's all it was ever about.
That was all it was
smearing
to smear him and beat him. Yeah, that's all it was.
I mean, why do you think all of these cases that they could have brought up decades ago all came up in election year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what's her name? What's the porn actress?
Horse face. I don't know if we want to say her name either.
Well, I don't even know. I can't think. But anyway, in that case, you talk about being
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels, basically a cheap whore.
Mm-hmm.
Turned into a cheap whore will be the fact that in the end, if that's all reversed and she doesn't, that is overturned on appeal.
Mm-hmm. And
she gets nothing. And the only thing come out of it is that Donald Trump were to lose, or if he wins, especially, then it's just gonna. She was used for nothing.
Well, she owes him money.
Well, yeah, that's from before
by court case,
right? But I'm talking about in this situation,
right? It was breach of contract,
right? So it's just all of these. It's just sad that these people are allowing themselves to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, Stormy, I guarantee you, I know what's up there. Somebody has said, we will pay your court fees if you bring this case. Yeah. I mean, you and I, we all know how the game is played.
Sure.
But the real people that I feel sorry for are the people who can't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of them are actually Christians and Republicans that buy into this stuff, that don't have enough sense to not watch and listen to CNN and those things. Hey, listen, we've got somebody coming in here in a few minutes for our other.
I want to mention a couple of things about.
But let's do the Olympics now.
So, as you notice, Caitlin Clark was specifically left off of the USA women's basketball team. One thing I always hope for in the Olympics coming on right before a presidential election is Olympics is a celebration of nationalism. Everybody roots for their country. And sadly, I think they sabotage these Olympics in America deliberately. And because I think the ratings right now are the lowest they've ever been for Olympics.
Well, they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
But they are suppressing any nationalistic opportunity. And that's sad. That it really is sad. So these are the globalists in charge now.
No, I agree. It began with last night with the opening ceremony, floating down the Seine River. You want to call it the Insane River because that was an insane opening ceremony to me, floating on these barges rather than having them marching in like they normally do. And then the whole, I'm sure many of you, if you haven't seen it, you will at some point, a depiction of the Last Supper with all transgender and gay people in all their glory. I don't even know what that was supposed to be about. I mean, it's just, this was kind of one of the hallmarks of this Olympics, but it was some kind of replica of the Last Supper, but it was all transgender people.
You know who they just helped in that? They helped Putin. Because Putin, to him, this war is as much about a fight against Western decadence. Because you don't have this kind of stuff happening in that part of Eastern Europe and into Asia.
You're right.
And good moral people are going to find themselves saying, yeah, I'm ashamed of this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's turned me off to the point I won't be watching. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, to me, it was a propaganda film for Putin in many ways. Because Putin can look at it and says, see, Russian people, this is what they become.
Right.
And we will not become that.
That, along with many of the other decisions they have made, the U.S. Olympic Committee, they're no longer making decisions based on the best. They're making political decisions. They're making decisions also based on NBC, which has the wisdom of a 2-year-old, apparently.
Yeah.
And it's been overtaken by the wrong people. And I hope they pay a price for it.
Yeah.
They deserve everything that they can get, which is low ratings.
Yep. Yeah. And to them, here's the thing. When McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform became law, what it did was exempted media operations from all those restrictions and everybody else in campaigning. It set aside the last, 30 or 60 days that media could report things, but nobody else could. It gave an incentive to politicos to take over media operations, and that's exactly what happened. And they become extremist advocates for particular political points of view. And sadly, they've destroyed Western independent journalism. It's destroyed.
Yeah, I agree.
And it is citizen journalism now that is now filling the void. Hello, what are we doing here? Yeah.
I think, as I was telling you before, I mean, believe it or not, which is crazy, what had traditionally been seen as a liberal left wing or a radical rag or periodical was the free press. And the free press is truly the free press. I mean, it's one of the best news venues out there now.
Yeah, because you get variety of positions.
And then you decide.
And they're respecting freedom of thought.
Exactly.
Right. Now, that's not the same as citizen free press, which is more of an aggregate, kind of like Drudge. In fact, last week, he surpassed Drudge. That big. Wow. The guys at Citizen Free Press. Yeah. It's my go-to. I have 3 things open up. I've got that, Babylon Bee, and Breitbart. I start my day every day with those 3.
Yeah. There's a lot out there, people, for you to look and learn from, and every day, keep your day, keep it on your toes. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Next week's episode will be in August. Oh. And I've already got my fantasy football team signed up. And football's coming. I'm looking forward to it.
Who do you have as your number 1?
Well, I haven't picked draft order yet. And, sadly, free agency's changed everything. And sadly, college football's become free agency too.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's true.
And it's a different world.
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know. My favorite team has become USC.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you why.
Ooh. That's painful to hear.
Well, no, I'll tell you why it's become my favorite. Just because people like Paul Feinbaum, I can't stand that guy. He's a skunk.
He's with ESPN, right?
Yes. And he's a sports writer, too.
Yeah, I just shut him off.
He used to come against OU all the time. He used to say Bob Stoops, and he was just, now all of a sudden that OU has moved to the SEC.
Yeah.
Now OU is
can't touch him.
Can't touch him now. Yeah. So he's in the bag for SEC.
Yeah, SEC is basically controlled by
right, but
ESPN.
he literally hates Lincoln Riley.
Yeah,
and he hates USC. And so everything he says and writes and everything, it just is negative.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's slime.
Yeah.
And I'm going to root for USC and Colorado. Those two, because they do the same thing. They want to just bring Deion Sanders to the dirt, and I can't stand that.
Well,
they're as bad as the woke media, political media.
Well, yeah, ESPN's part of Disney, ABC.
Yeah.
And now interesting thing, since showing USC, they and UCLA are now part of the Big Ten. I mean, there's just people have to reimagine college football.
Oh no, I know. Yeah.
I mean, the Pac pretty much is gone.
Washington and Oregon, USC, UCLA are all in the Big Ten.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Big 12, which is now 16 teams, took on some of the best. I mean, Utah,
Arizona State, Utah, Colorado.
And we'd already grabbed BYU, Brigham Young.
Florida. UCF. Central Florida, right?
Right, which is the former TU offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn. Or wait, is he? Yeah, he's...
No. Gus isn't at TU. He used to be at TU.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I see, yeah.
He eventually went to Auburn.
Right.
And I remember talking to, what's his name? Graham, Coach Graham. He was so frustrated because he turned down that job. And then he said, yeah, you can talk to Gus. And Gus right away wins the national championship there. Cheated, but got it.
How did he cheat? Oh, but because he got Cam Newton?
Cam Newton was, they eventually said he's ineligible. And, they basically paid him, which now is you have to pay him.
I know. See, that's, in fact, I think they gave Reggie Bush his Heisman back.
I hope they did.
I think they did. They needed to, yeah. Oh, man. Another subject we'll have to, O.J. Simpson's Heisman and all of his Heisman stuff.
Yeah.
That's a subject we need to talk about. All right, everybody.
Next week.
Yes. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you then. God bless. Goodbye.